of merit, transference of merit, sharing of merit, radiations of loving kindness. I think I have explained the difference, these three. What is the meaning of transference of merit? How did I explain? To whom are we going to transfer the merits? Forgotten. Huh? Only 1 week you have forgotten that. Huh? Yes. We can transfer the merit only to departed. Then sharing of merit with whom? Those who can understand, appreciate, whether they are humans or devas. Alright, we can share the merit with them. Can we share the merit with animals? Why cannot? Why cannot? Because they cannot understand, they have no idea about merits or religions or anything. So we cannot share with them. Then what can we do for them? Is there anything that we can do for them? Animals? Yes, slaughter them and all up. Isn't it? There must be something. That's right. We can radiate, transmit our loving kindness or compassion or sympathy towards every living being, whether they are humans or animals or spirit or ghosts or devils or devas, brahmas, make no difference. Radiation of loving kindness. In Metta Sutta, it is very clearly mentioned how we can do that. But radiations of loving kindness we cannot do so easily, because we must have that in our mind. We must be compassionate first. We must have a lot of kindness, compassion, sympathy. Otherwise, there is nothing for us to radiate. If there is anger or jealousy or grudge or ill will or enmity in our mind, there is nothing for us to radiate. At that time we can radiate only hatred, and we can curse, bad effect. Others experience bad effect. Certain bad words we uttered with bad intention, the bad effect. On the other hand, certain good words with good intention, when we utter, then others experience some sort of calmness and relief. Now this is the difference. That last Friday I have explained already. So number 3, Yamo mitta manussaca majjatta verika pica sabbe satta sukhi hontu punyani pakatani me. Can you recite? Yamo mitta, Yamo mitta manussaca majjatta verika pica Sabbe satta sukhi hontu punyani prakatani me. Yama, devas of the underworld, humans, friends, indifferent ones, enemies too, may all beings be happy, sharing my merits. So we try to contact all sorts of living beings in this whole universe. First name is Yama, Yamo, the king of hell. We invite the king of the hell also to share the merits. Although he cannot appreciate, but it is mentioned his name, Dhammiko so Yamo Raja, Yamaraja, king of the hell. His name is Dhammika, who is righteous. That means he is very unbiased. So, although he is in hell, he maintains some sort of good principles. His unbiased attitude, no discrimination, no differences. He regards or treats all those who are in hell equally. Equal means according to their own karma. Again, when we talk about this hell, we have to think wisely and use our common sense also. Whatever people have written in their holy books, the Buddha's advice also not to accept without using our common sense and understanding. For thousands of years, people believed that hell is located under this earth and heaven is above. This is our common belief. Nobody knows whether right or wrong, just believe. Because it is recorded also in many holy books, in many religions. In the Buddha's teaching, there is a saying. But I don't think there is any other religion in this world where we can find this saying. So what the Buddha says, only foolish people believe that hell is located under this earth or under the great ocean. Only foolish people, he used this word. According to him, hell is not situated or located in any particular area or in any particular planet in this universe. Then why do they regard this as most unfortunate, miserable state and located under this earth? Because of suffering. From birth up to the last breath, without any interval, the whole life is nothing but suffering. That is hell. No interval for you to laugh or joke or for anything, to enjoy your life. All the while suffering and suffering and suffering and suffering up to the end of your life. This is the way how the Buddha has explained the nature of hell. So this hell is, I told you, not one particular area or planet under this earth or above. Where there are living beings who suffer from their birth up to the last breath, they are in hell. This is the way how the Buddha introduced. Otherwise, hell is not a particular area created by God or created by the Buddha or devils or anybody. Hell is nothing but suffering. Now, we are suffering. Animals suffer. But we have intervals for us to laugh and joke and enjoy, but again suffering. Then crying and worrying and fighting and again laugh and enjoy. Therefore we are not in hell. So, they believe that there is a ruler. Of course, amongst animals also there is a leader. So others follow. So in hell, hell means where there are sufferings. So living beings, whether they are humans or animals or spirits or ghosts or devils, if they suffer from the beginning up to the end of their life, they are in hell. This is the Buddha's interpretation. But many others believe it is created by God and punished and eternal, but all these are beliefs. So, but whether there is such person as king of the hell or not, this is a traditional belief that people maintained for thousands of years. Because of that, it is mentioned here. But this is not the Buddha saying. These stanzas are composed by some disciples from time to time. Not the Buddha saying. Buddha never uttered this kind of thing. So we invite the king of the hell, whether such person exists or not, we radiate our kindness and invite him to share the merit. Assume there is a place, there is a ruler or king. So when we invite him to share the merit, if we happen to go there, we can tell him, don't forget, every day I invited you to share the merit. Then you can be friends with him, then you may get some sort of concession. So let it be anything. We do our duty without any discrimination, whether they exist or not. Manusacha, for every human being. Here not transference, sharing or inviting all the others to share the merit. When they appreciate and understand, now the Buddhist term for this appreciation is sadhu. Sadhu means excellent, wonderful, well done. The meaning of that word, this is a very meaningful word, sadhu. Somebody, after performing some meritorious deeds, by helping others, or release others' suffering, and save others' life, and you go and tell others, today I have done this. And when they say sadhu, they also share the merit. And they appreciate and they encourage you to do this kind of good deeds. That is the idea. Anyway, it is not necessary to use the Pali language for you to appreciate. Whatever language that you use makes no difference. Madhyatta. What do you mean madhyatta? Indifferent. Who are they? Indifferent means they are neither friends or relatives nor enemies. Neutral. Neutral people usually we neglect. we forget them. Example, when you go out, you meet your friends or relatives on the way. Then you feel very happy and with smiling face, and you talk and greet, and you go your own way. Again you meet your enemy. Then you show your sour face, you feel very unhappy and staring at each other without talking. That means you acknowledge that person. In between you meet so many others. They are neither your friends or relatives or enemy, just overlook. You don't want to take them into your mind. They are the one, majjata, indifferent. So those people we never keep in our mind. But those two, our friends and our enemy, they are working in our mind. Here, the Buddhist attitude is, we should not neglect even those who are indifferent to us, neutral. Invite them also to share the merits. Verika are enemies. Enemies are very important, especially not for sharing of merit, because enemies do not appreciate our good work. They always try to find out loopholes and weaknesses, to criticize, to condemn, to accuse. But we can radiate our metta, our kindness, our compassion, our sympathy towards our enemies. Whether they accept or not, we can transmit. So when we transmit our metta, our kindness towards them, you can see how changes take place in their mind. That is very effective. This is real practical Buddhism. You can practice and see. Assume you have some enemies who don't like you. Without hating them, without showing a sour face or discrimination to them, act wisely. Radiate your kindness toward this person. After some times you can see how changes have taken place in that person's life. So, we should not hate or curse our enemies. We pollute the purity of our own mind by doing that. So when you hate your enemies, what will happen? You pollute the purity of your own mind. So we damage ourselves by hating. An example is given in the Buddha's teaching. When you want to hurt your enemy by throwing or beating something, you haven't got anything, no stones, and you have seen some dog dung, and you take some dog dung into your hand, throw at his face. But you have forgotten, you have dirtied your own hand. So when you hate your enemy, you completely pollute the purity of your mind, you damage your own mind, not only that person. So, don't forget to radiate your kindness towards your enemies. Don't allow them to remain forever as your enemies. You know the the Buddhist custom, I have seen this in many cases, before their death, many people want to withdraw that enmity, either by apologizing or asking forgiveness. They withdraw that evil thought from the mind. Then they become very normal, then can die peacefully. If we die with that hatred in our mind, there is no guarantee what will happen to us. That hated thought, that ill will, that grudge, that keep in our mind can spoil our whole life, our next existence. So if we die without withdrawing our enmity, we damage our own life. Life means our destiny, our future life. There are so many stories what happened to them who died with hatred and anger. Sabbe satta sukhi hontu. Sabbe, all, satta, living beings, sukhi hontu, may they be well and happy, sukhi hontu. Here without discrimination. Others cannot do this. When you observe this very carefully, you can see. Usually, people extend their goodwill and relationship and kindness towards their own kind, their own race, their own religious group, but not to other religious groups. They hate other religious groups. They extend their love and kindness to the followers of their own religion. They regard the followers of other religions as enemies. This is un-Buddhistic. Buddhism never encourages. We must never discriminate the followers of other religions. We must never think they are unfortunate or they go to hell after their death. You must never think in that. You should not think you are the only fortunate one, all the others are sinners. We have no ground to believe in that. And only our race or color discriminate. Here, sabbe satta, all those living beings, human beings first. Then come to the animals and other living beings. Many other religions never teach their followers to extend kindness and compassion towards animals and some other living beings, only human beings. Not to kill means only human beings. Because human beings introduce religion, therefore they say don't kill human beings. If animals can introduce a religion, definitely they say don't kill animals. There is no common sense there. When you say don't kill only human beings, suffering, pain, fear, all these are equal. Whether they are humans or animals makes no difference. So, again, visible or invisible, known and unknown, near or far away, in this world or any other world system where there are living beings, we can radiate, no difficulty. So when we say sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta, may all those living beings be well and happy, no discrimination, no differences. Punyani pakatani me, may share the merit that we have accrued, punya. I have explained the meaning of this word punya. Number 4, Sukham ca tividang dentu, Kippang papetavo matang, Imina punya kammena, Imina uddisena ca, Sukham ca tividang dentu, Kippang papetavo matang, Imina punya kammena, Imina uddisena ca. May the triple happiness be attained now, after death, and finally Nibbana. 3. May all gain release from evil by these meritorious deeds and through this sharing. So there are 3 periods for us to experience happiness. Here means while we are living here in this world, we must lead our life to gain some sort of happiness, satisfaction in our life. We make a lot of mistakes and we harm others and disturb others. By doing such wicked things, we cannot gain happiness. If we really want to experience happiness, we have to do our work without harming others. Then we can develop confidence because we have not done any harm to anybody. Then we can live without fear, without worry. So we can die peacefully without worry and fear. When we think our way of life, the happiness. By enjoying in worldly way or worldly pleasures, sensual pleasures, we experience momentary happiness, instant, fleeting nature. That happiness, it is not happiness actually, pleasure. Just appear and disappear next moment. Not lasting. All our worldly happiness or pleasures cannot remain for a long period. Few seconds, few minutes, few hours, few days, after that disappear. Next one, hereafter. We can experience happiness hereafter. Hereafter means after our death. Then what will happen to us after our death? According to certain religions, after our death, existence or rebirth again take place due to our own karma, good and bad deeds, and due to our craving for existence, craving for pleasure, attachment. As long as we maintain this mental attitude, whether we believe or not, we cannot stop this existence again. According to certain religions, after our death, either heaven or hell, and that will become everlasting. Buddhism never accept, Hinduism never accept, Jainism never accept this kind of thing. Everlasting. What is everlasting? Define this word. So, some others say, mostly scientists, free thinkers, rationalists, great thinkers, some philosophers, they say, all these religious people talk rubbish. Actually hereafter there is nothing. That is their belief. No, why worry? But Buddhism and other religions never accept that. We cannot say there is nothing. Definitely there is something. If there is no rebirth, no hell, no heaven, but there must be something. So we should not think this is the end. This is the first and the last. No. Continuity is there. So, next existence or next life can become pleasurable, peaceful, to experience happiness by leading peaceful life here. But we cannot gain happiness in the next life by disturbing and harming others. We can pray and worship and appeal to God also, asking Him to send you to heaven. It doesn't work. But you have to prepare for that. How to prepare? Lead harmless life, respectable life, noble life. That is called religious life. Whatever religion it may be, it makes no difference. Whether they are Christians or Hindus or Muslims or Buddhists, makes no difference to us. If they are harmless, respectable people, they are religious people to us. The religious label is not important. So, next life become peaceful and prosperous and happy if we lead a peaceful life here. But that is not the main purpose. After that next existence, life process, mental process continue. You cannot stop it. And there is no guarantee whether we can continue this way of life or not. This is the uncertainty of our mind, human mind. Any moment changes can take place in our mind. Today we are very kind, very honest, very religious. But there is no guarantee tomorrow we can become very wicked, very cunning, very dangerous people. Changes can take place in that human. When temptation or agitation or irritation appears in the mind, changes take place immediately. You must have very strong conviction, determination to continue your noble way of life in spite of all sort of disturbance. Otherwise, very difficult. Now let us take the previous birth stories of the Buddha, Jataka stories. He had been cultivating his life after life. He tried his level best to keep away from bad deeds, all the bad deeds. He tried to do all the good deeds. He tried to maintain purity in his mind. These are the three channels that he used to cultivate. But occasionally he has done some mistake. He explained what sort of mistake he has done. after gaining his enlightenment. Because of the bad effect of the bad karma that he has committed, then he explained how he had to suffer. The person who is trying to become a Buddha also, during his previous birth, occasionally he has committed certain evil deeds or misdeeds. Now what about others? This is the uncertainty of our life. So when we are in trouble, when we suffer, when our life becomes miserable, we always blame others, accuse others, without thinking that we might have done certain bad deeds during our previous existence. And these are the bad effects. So without blaming others, we can make up our mind, to console our mind. Because we do not know what we have done. Although we had certain good karmas to be born as human beings, besides them, you might have done certain other bad deeds also, bad karma. So we cannot escape from the bad effect. Innocent people get into trouble, very dangerous situation. But nobody knows what is the secret behind. Due to certain bad karma that he has committed during one of his previous births. Therefore, by leading this repeated birth and death and birth and death and birth and death and sufferings and crying and worrying and fighting and quarreling and accusing and blaming and all sort of things, what do we gain? Nothing. Physical body we drop here and make graveyard, either burial or cremation. Life process already gone. Again settle down somewhere else. Then combine with the external elements and energies and cosmic energies, then build another body and another life. After leading that particular life for a certain period, and again die and bury that dead body or cremate, then again proceed. So existing in this way, actually we do not enjoy our life. It is suffering. So the main purpose of Buddhism is to see the end of the suffering, to tell you how to end, how to see the end of our suffering. Birth creates suffering, sicknesses create suffering, old age creates suffering, death creates suffering, not at the dying moment, but earlier when we think of death we suffer. At the dying moment actually there is no suffering. So, in between fighting, quarreling, arguing and hatred, anger, jealousy, enmity, so what is the use of this way of life? And always go on worrying and thinking and what to do whole day and night, sour face, thinking what will happen to us. This is called life. Therefore we can see end of all these problems we are facing. What is that? When we stop our craving for existence, when we stop our craving for pleasure, worldly pleasure, When we stop all our bad deeds, when we purify our mind, then we can see the end of all these problems. That is called Nirvana. Nirvana means no more craving. The meaning of the word Nir means no. Nir, no. Vana means craving, no more craving. Then Nirvana, bliss. No more suffering. Now these are the three occasions or three periods that we can gain some sort of happiness. Number 5. Today I promised to finish this earlier because tomorrow there will be a very big wedding ceremony. They want to come and prepare the hall for tomorrow's wedding. Number 5. Krippahang sulabhe cheva tanho padana chedanang ye santane hina dhamma yava nibbanato mamang Kippahang sulabhe cheva tanho padana chedanang ye santane hina dhamma yava nibbanato mamang. Soon indeed may I attain to the good, to cutting off cravings, attachments and all that is low in this flux of being while striving for my deliverance. That is what I mentioned just now. As early as possible, we must try to see the end of this suffering, physical and mental. In fact, we suffer more mentally. Physical sufferings occasionally. Mental sufferings every minute, every second. Worries and mental disturbances. Mental suffering is worse than physical suffering. Many people commit suicide not because of physical pain, but mental suffering. Cannot tolerate anymore. So, by reducing this tanha, craving, attachment for pleasure, for enjoyment, for worldly material things, which are impermanent, changeable, uncertain, then the mind becomes free. After gaining his enlightenment, the first utterance, wording, came out from the Buddha's mouth. I had to suffer in this samsara, repeated birth and death, because of my ignorance. My ignorance supported my craving and attachment. By realizing the danger of this, I could manage to get rid of it. Visankhara gatang chittam. Now there are no more sankhara in my mind. Life which are accumulated in the storehouse of consciousness or subconscious. Now no more. Completely purified. Tandhanang kayamajjaga. Tandha, craving is no more. Completely eradicated, wiped out. No attachment, no craving, no desire in his mind. Nathidani punabhavo. No more becoming again. No more rebirth. Stop. Why? If no craving, no more existence again. Because of our craving, we develop attachment. Then existence again takes place. When the craving and attachment are no more, no mental energy to condition or to produce another life. That is called end of suffering. No more birth, no more decay, no more sickness, no more old age, no more death. Free from all these things. Stop. I think I have repeated this several times. A Christian friend asked this question from a Buddhist. Can you tell me what will happen to you after your death? Then he said, if anything happened to you after your death, I think same thing will happen to me also. No different way of happening. It's a correct answer. People have different belief. They are belief, not happening. Belief is one thing, happening is another thing. If anything happened to you, whether you are Christian or Muslim or Hindu, makes no difference. Same thing will happen to me also. Natural. Number 6. Nasantu sabbada eva yattha jato bhave bhave uju citto sati panyo Sallekho viriyavamina. Nasantu sappadaeva yattha jato bhave bhave uju citto satipanyo Sallekho viriyavamina. May such evils everywhere be destroyed. As one reappears, existence after existence, may there be the upright mind, thoughtful wisdom, purity and energy. We started this recital first by inviting our father and mothers and relatives and teachers and all the others to share the merit. Then we invited all the devas and brahmas and sakras and powerful living beings to share the merit. Then we invited even the king of the hell and all those so-called unfortunate living beings also to share the merit. Then we started radiating our metta and loving kindness to all the other living beings, irrespective of their race or nationality or religion, or whether they are humans or animals, to every living being. Now we make our aspiration. What is our aspiration? What is the meaning of aspiration? Our wish or our will or our hope and aspiration to continue this noble way of life without committing evils until we attain our final salvation, Nibbana. That is aspiration. So that aspiration must be there. Otherwise we won't get it. We had to train our mind to create some sort of aspiration when we do some meritorious deeds. Usually what people do, what sort of aspiration they create in their mind. To go to heaven and enjoy their life, increase their craving more. To be born in a rich family to enjoy their life, again they increase their craving. The Buddha's advice is, don't reduce the validity of your meritorious deeds by creating such aspiration. Enjoyment in heaven is a means to an end. One day there will be an end. Again you miss the target. Enjoyment as human beings also only for a short period. Therefore don't limit your aspiration just for worldly sensual pleasure, either in heaven or in human world. You have to go further. By the virtues of these merits, may I gain more knowledge, more wisdom, more understanding, more purity, more strength, more courage. In the end, may I gain Nibbanic bliss to end all my suffering. So you have to develop further without creating that aspiration only for heavenly bliss or human enjoyment. So that is why Ujjucitto Satipanyo must have very clear and straightforward, good conviction to continue, to carry on our noble way of life, religious way of life. Number 7. Mara labhantu no kasang katunca viriyesu me buddhadi pavaro natho dhammo natho aruttamo mara labhantu no kasang katunca viriyesu me buddhadi pavaro natho dhammo natho aruttamo. May evils, personified as Maras, never approach me through the power of my actions and energy. Through such powers as the Buddhas, the Dhamma, lofty supreme. This is another belief that Mara come and disturb, create evil thought, create temptation. This belief is common in every religion. Whether it is true or not, in all the existing religions, there is a very strong opponent, very powerful. Christianity and Islam talk about Satan, devil. How devils come and create temptation and create evil thought and wicked, influenced by devil or Satan. Hinduism, before all these religions, Buddhism and Christianity and other religions come into existence, Hinduism talk about Asura. Asura is just like Mara, very powerful Deva, one of the gods, but very wicked, very cruel, very powerful, and disturb others and influence people to be wicked and cruel. This is Hinduism. and Buddhism talk about Mara. There are many stories also how Mara came and disturbed the Buddha as disciples and followers to influence them, to disturb them. But very unbiased people who can think deeply can understand. All these evil forces that they have personified, that means introduced as a person, as devils or Satans or Mara or Asura. In fact, they are not living beings. They are evil forces. But according to our human way of thinking, we transform these evil forces into a person. Then we say Satan or devil came and influenced, disturbed, Mara came and influenced, disturbed, Asura came and disturbed. Evil thought. Human mind is worse than devil's mind. Devils also scared of human mind. Such a powerful mental energy. Therefore, human mind can represent a god or devil, both. One he can act as a god, one he can act as a devil. This is the nature of human mind. So here, what we say, may Mara never get the chance to come and disturb us. Here we introduce as a person. But when we explain in this way, may evil thoughts never appear in our mind to disturb us, then it is more meaningful. Instead of thinking of external disturbances, we create all these things from our own mind. Through the power of these, all the merits, the energy, the power, and the power of the Buddha, the power of the Dhamma, may we get the chance to maintain that pure mind, to continue our noble way of life, that aspiration. Power of the Buddha, the power of the Dhamma. That means when we develop our confidence to understand the nature of the Buddha's enlightenment, wisdom, advices, then we gain confidence. When we follow the Dhamma taught by the Buddha, by practicing, we gain experience that it is true. Then the power of the Dhamma we develop. Then we create this idea in our mind. The Buddha will protect us. The Dhamma will protect us. Because we have fear, to get rid of this fear, we had to create it. The followers of other religions think God. They also say God is not a person actually. But they may the God protect us. Yes, it is very good. Whether they are followers of that particular religion or not, there is no harm at all. To gain that confidence and protection, to get rid of fear and worries, uneasiness, may the God, or may the Buddha, or the Dhamma. Dhamma is the universal law. When you harmonize without violating and disturbing the universal law, you are protected by the same universal law. That is Dhamma. Last one. Natho pacceka sambuddho Sangho nathottaro mamang Tesottamanubhavena Marokasang labhantu ma Natho pacceka sambuddho Sangho nathottaro mamang Tesottamanubhavena Marokasang labhantu ma. The Lordly Lone Buddha, any of highest lords of the Arya Sangha, even unto my final birth, may evils never approach me. The power of the Buddha and all the Arya Sangha. Do you know the difference between Sangha and Arya Sangha? What is the difference? Pardon? No, not association here. Yes, of course, the literary meaning. Indian languages, Sangha means association. Hindu Sangha. Yes, what is the difference between...
Arya Sangha is those noble saints.
Those who... That's right. Those who have attained sainthood, arahant. Those who have stopped their, what you call, evil thought, wicked, cruel, dangerous things, stop their rebirth also. Attain arahant. They are Arya. Arya means noble. The meaning of the word. Arya. This word, Arya, existed in India for a long time. Arya race. Limited only to that particular race. But the Buddha used this word Arya by giving another meaning. Noble. Arya Sangha, noble Sangha. Noble Sangha means not ordinary monks. Those monks who have attained sainthood or arahanthood, the highest stage. Arya. Then another group, Sammuti Sangha. Sammuti means accepted by the people. Sangha. Accepted by the people as Sangha. Recognized by the people as Sangha. Ordinary monks and Sangha. But they are not holy saint or arahant. Those who are ordained, those who are leading a religious way of life as Sangha. But the public recognize them as Sangha. They call Sammuti Sangha. So all those monks who exist today are not Arya Sangha. They are Sammuti Sangha, accepted by the community. So by the power of the Buddha and Dhamma and Sangha, may we gain, what is that? Unto my final birth, up to the last birth, to avoid from evil deeds, bad deeds, to continue good deeds. By the power of these three, triple gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma and Sangha. Three. That means when we develop our faith and confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma and Sangha, we get the courage to avoid, keep away from bad things. We cannot do wicked or cruel or harmful things when we think of the Buddha or the Dhamma and Sangha. That is how they protect us. So when we remember the Buddha, most compassionate, then how can we kill others, destroy others, harm others? Then we say Buddha protected us. Yes. We create this Buddha in our mind, then protect us. Now we are in fear. Fear of devil, fear of spirit, fear of all sort of things. Now you do not know what to do. Then recall the Buddha into your mind. when you recall the Buddha into your mind, the fear disappears from the mind. Then you develop, the Buddha will protect me. Because you created the image of the Buddha in your mind, the loneliness and the fear disappear from your mind. That is how the Buddha protects you. So, those who think of God when they are in fear also do the same thing. They invite the God, whether God exists or not, they create. I remember one European a scholar, I forgot his name. He said, Anatole France is a French scholar. He says, if God does not exist, somehow or the other we must create a God. Because for our human mind, the concept of God is very important. Because he realized the nature of human mind, fear, suspicion, insecurity, disturbances. So there must be some external object for human mind to depend on. God will protect me. Again, there's another European scholar, his name is Whitehead. If I said this one, you can say Baldhead. his name is Whitehead. It's a very meaningful saying. He says, first, man created God. Then God created man. 100% correct. Because the concept of God first time created in the man's mind. Then develop and personified, introduced as a person, then say God created man, accepted. Whitehead says. Very meaningful sayings. So, next Friday, just now this tape library, cassette tape library people told me they haven't got the proper tape of Metta Sutta. Because when I was explaining, Reverend Mahinda came here. So I asked him to talk about this Metta Sutta. But it seemed he did not follow according to the book. So this coming Friday, I am going to explain the real meaning of Metta Sutta and how to radiate this, how effective, and the method taught by the Buddha. Because they say they want to record and keep for their tape library. Last night we had a very interesting religious talk here. 40 Europeans visited the temple. They invited us to give a religious talk. They are from England and France and Holland and Germany. 40 of them. We had about 2 hours discussion, very friendly discussion. They were very happy. They are all Christians, but they know how to appreciate. And they say they have visited many temples and mosques and Hindu temples, but very seldom they get the chance to learn something, religion. So they say they like to come again to gain more knowledge and understanding. Let us recite once again. Imina punya kammena upajjaya gunuttara achariyupakaracha mata pita piyamamam Suryo Chandi Maharaja Gunavanta Narapicha Brahma Maharaja Indacha Lokapalacha Devata Yamo Mitta Manusacha Madhyata Verika Picha Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hantu पुण्यानि पकतानि मे सुखांच त्रिविधं देन्तु खिप्पं पापेभवो मतं इमिना पुण्यकम्मेन इमिना उद्दिशेन च खिप्पाहं सुलभे चैव तन्नोपादानचेदनं येषां तानि हीना धम्मा यावन्निब्बानतो ममं न सन्तु सर्वदा एव यत्र जातो भवे भवे उजुचित्तो सतिपन्यो सल्लेखो विरियवामिना मारालभन्तु नोकासं पातुञ्च विरियेषु मे बुद्धादिपवरो नाथो धम्मो नाथो अरुत्तमो नाथो पच्चेक सम्बुद्धो संगो नाथोत्तरो ममं केशोत्तमानुभावेन मारोका संलभन्तु माम्।